Well, good afternoon, everybody. Today's video is going to be just a little bit different in that you will hear me, but you will be watching or looking at a menu that is going to be one I'm using for a sample visual analysis. So we're going to kind of walk through the process together, and I'm going to just show you this example of how you might do a visual and how you will follow the process yourself as you work on your visual analysis. So as you can see, this is the menu for a barbecue restaurant. I'm going to kind of move you up a little closer and let you see this menu. The restaurant is called Rib Country, and I live in Cleveland, and this is a restaurant my husband and I have gone to. So I'm going to step back and show you how the menu looks in its entirety. This is page 1. This is the menu that's online, and this is exactly how the actual menu looks if you're looking at it, in the restaurant. And then there's a page 2. I want to click on that. All right, so you can see page 2 looks a lot like page 1. So let's talk through this for just a few minutes. Let's talk through the visual elements, the accessibility, the use of space, the use of illustrations, this sort of organizational pattern, and then we'll go back and look at the sort of the text that they do have on this menu and what it seems to suggest, and then sort of talk about what we consider to be, the whole message of this menu. So when you just look at this menu before you even read it, I think the first thing you notice is that there's an awful lot here. It's a really busy menu. There's a whole lot of text, a whole lot of information, not a lot of pictures or visuals. There are a few. And prominent up there at the very, very top, remember you want to look at what jumps out at you on the page and why. What exactly is the intent of this design? So you see, of course, that picture of the pig in a cowboy hat and with a kerchief, and the phrase "darn good meat." Now that is in bigger typeface than anything else, and it's up there in the left-hand corner, which is where your eye starts to read, because that's how we learn to read. In our culture, we go from left to right, and so that's where you're going to start. That's the first thing you see. Darn good meat, and the picture of the pig, and open 7 days a week. Couple of other visual elements. You have a few shapes, and you have under Little Country Kids, a little harder to see, so I'm going to get a little closer, is a turkey. It's like a cartoon of a chef and a turkey. And then there are just a few other, sort of visual shape elements, some boxes, what almost looks like a chart there in the middle for the lunch specials. You've got a little sort of triangle over here to draw your attention to, something you can do for both lunch and dinner. You've got the shapes there that draw your attention to the salads, and you've got the bar that's going to draw your attention to the drinks. You've got a box that discusses salad dressings or lists salad dressings, and again, some information about salads. You've got that, like I said, kind of a chart in the middle that shows you the lunch specials. Those are the main visual elements that you notice here. So let's think about how those are employed. You have noticed that the pictures are cartoon pictures, right? They're not photographs, they're not drawings or paintings, they're cartoons. When we think about barbecue restaurants, we think about casual dining, don't we? They're not particularly upscale, fancy restaurants. And we tend to think of them, barbecue restaurants tend to want to attract family crowds. And so the use of the cartoons and the sort of casual vibe here, that makes sense for a barbecue restaurant. Now, we live in the South where barbecue can be kind of competitive. So think about that darn good meat phrase up there. That conveys the idea that, what we go to a barbecue restaurant for is the meat, the barbecue meat itself. And so barbecue restaurants have to kind of pride themselves on the quality of their barbecued meat. And so they're going to call that out. And of course, when we think about barbecue, we think about pork. And so it makes sense to have the pig, right? Pig in the cowboy hat is just kind of conveying, again, a casual sort of upbeat vibe that makes, children and families welcome. I'm going to focus in a little bit here and notice that it says specifically family owned and operated barbecue joints. And notice how many they have. They have 5 in the area, which conveys what to us? Well, that they've been successful, right? And so if a restaurant can say, look how successful we are being or we have been, that gives us confidence in the restaurant and that, they have good food and that they are operated well. Couple of other things to notice as far as the language here. You've got language that kind of focuses again on that casual atmosphere, right? So you've got, you add them to your dinner, add them to your lunch, right? It's easy to be able to order the way you want to. Notice the level of the language. Country-made onion loaf, country chicken tenders, fried green tomatoes. The appeal here that they're using with that kind of language, plus beans and franks, right? What else? On the side, you've got a lot of references to the South. You've got a lot of references to the country, Mountaineer half-pound cheeseburger. This is a country restaurant, kind of a down-home, casual restaurant. That's the image that barbecue has, and so they're going to emphasize that, right? Little country kids for the children's menu. So very much emphasizing that home cooked kind of an appeal. Come to this restaurant and you're going to get food that is good and that is like you would cook at home, except that you don't want to take the time to cook it at home, right? You want to come here. Step back a little bit and again look at the visual movement, the pattern from left to right. So it's like you have 3 big boxes, and even though there's an awful lot on this page, it's organized so that your eye moves from left to right. And so even though it's very busy, it's all compartmentalized so you can read it in chunks, right? Chunk, 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 left to right. That's why they've used boxes and they've used lists and segments, and so it's accessible, it's easy to look at. Notice that there's not a lot of emphasis on the prices. The prices are there, but you don't see dollar signs. And that's going to be some advice that you see, that one example, resource I gave you, which is a link to a blog that tells people how to design restaurant menus, and it tells them organize your information visually, emphasize a particular tone that you want to emphasize, de-emphasize the prices because you don't want people, to pay too much attention to how much they have to pay. But of course, these prices, as you'll notice, these are quite reasonable. Again, this is a moderately priced restaurant. It's not fast food, it's not super cheap, but it's also not very expensive. It's affordable. And for a family restaurant, you want to emphasize affordability. All right, let's go to the second page. And we're going to see the same thing really here. Again, the material or the information is in 3 panels. You have some boxes, you have lists, so the information is chunked for you. So the visuals here, you have again one sort of casual cartoon, right? The cook there cooking meat, chopping it up, okay? You've got some information in boxes, the kind of food. Notice again the language country combo, how we smoke them good. So again, you know, barbecue restaurants pride themselves on how good their meat is and how they smoke it. And so they got a section on that. And to add to your sort of confidence as a restaurant patron, they've got a guarantee that says, and again, the language is very casual here, very accessible, very friendly, you know, very oriented to easy reading. They've got a wide variety of people that they want to come, and so they want this menu to be easy to read. They want it to be comfortable for people. They want people to feel comfortable and to feel confident in the quality of the food. Notice they've got desserts, and the desserts are called homemade desserts, emphasizing again that notion that this is a kind of a down-home restaurant. And I also want you to notice this is quite a sort of a challenge for restaurants right now. This restaurant has added a surcharge, 5%. Now that's not a whole lot, but you know, it is a surcharge. Notice that they've kind of de-emphasized that. It's on there and it's big enough to read, but they haven't made a big thing out of it, right? And they've emphasized temporarily, and they've told you why, rising food costs, and they've added a COVID surcharge. And this is the kind of thing that would probably irritate people, and so they've got it on there, but they have kind of de-emphasized it. So overall, I would say, if I'm writing an essay on this restaurant and based on their menu, that what they are saying to their patrons is, come and eat here. It's going to be just as good as something you would make yourself. It's country. You know, we live in the South, and so this is a down-home country restaurant, just like being at home, just like being with your friends and family. It's easy. It's not going to cost you a lot. The quality is going to be just as good as what you would make yourself, but you don't have to make it yourself. We're making it for you. And I think that's the philosophy and the message of this menu.